Hi, I'm Marlene, and I thought I would talk about all the new action cards for Genshin Impact's Genius Invocation TCG. There are a lot of cards. I will split it a little bit into equipment cards, event cards, and support cards. And I thought the best way to talk about all the cards and to not be super overwhelmed is in a tier list format where, I can show you guys what I personally think is actually worth spending your shiny coins on. What are they actually called? The lucky coins. Let's just start, I would say. The first one is Plunging Strike. It's kind of expensive with 3 dice of the same element. It couldn't be any element. And it's basically just you switch to another character and they instantly do a normal attack. I think personally, considering how expensive it is, in the sense, it's the same price as a normal attack, but it's 3 of the same element, the dice. I feel like the situation where this is a good move is very rare. If it was 3 just unaligned dice, then it will be a pretty good card, like S tier. With this, I don't know if I should go C or B. How mean am I gonna be? I cannot decide. I think I will put it in between B and C for now and just see how the vibe is gonna go later on with all the other cards next to it. The next card is The Legend of Vanessa. And it just creates 4 random elemental dice, all of different elements. And it costs 3 dice, again, all of the same element. So basically you're just transforming your 3 elemental dice that you might not need into 4 other random ones. I honestly think, to me it happens quite a lot that I would need 1 more dice and then I could do an additional action. So this technically just gives you 1 more dice. The only thing is you need to have 3 of the same element. Okay, I actually think I can see the situation where this is good, but it's not top tier. I'm not gonna put it in A actually, because you're basically just getting an additional dice, and if you already have dice lying around, and you can always, I don't know, in this game I always have so many cards, so I can quite often change the element of the dice. Okay, now I thought about this one a little bit more, the Plunging Attack. I think I'm actually going to put it to C because there's so many good cards that make you swapping a character into a fast action so you can just attack right away, and so many cards where it's you don't need to spend dice when going to the next character, and these are always good in every situation. You just put them in the deck and they will always be useful, so that kind of makes this card unnecessary. And then you'd rather put the other cards in, you know what I mean? And for the Legend of Vanessa one, this one here, I can see the use. It's not bad to have it, but actually when I think about it more, at the same time, there are also a lot of cards that just give you additional dice. Next one I want to talk about is Tevat. Can I actually not pronounce it? Tevat? I have no idea. Fried egg. It's just fried egg. And this card actually just straight up changed the game, completely. Wow, it's so OP. I don't know how to word this, but it revives the character and heals them to 1 HP. I know that 1 HP is not a lot, but you can heal them up and they will not be the active character from the sound of things, so you can easily heal them up. If you have a healer in your deck or more food, you can use that with the food bag equipment, where then it generates more food. This card is straight up OP. I don't think there's a better card in this game. Holy shit. I know the game's relatively easy, so it doesn't happen a lot that people die, but in the later challenges it actually gets kind of tricky, and now with the new game mode as well, this could be so OP. I would definitely put it in all my decks. Definitely. What I forgot to say is it costs 3 elemental dice of the same element, which is kind of expensive, but for what it does, I think it's still worth it, honestly. Next one is Sashimi Plata, and Basically, all your normal attacks in that round will just do 1 additional damage, which I find quite good, especially because it only costs 1 elemental dice. And yeah, again, food is really good in this game, especially if you have the equipment card where you constantly generate new food. I would say usually you do between 2 and 3 normal attacks. Basically, for 1 elemental dice, you get 3 additional damage. That's how we need to look at it. I think it's actually pretty good. I'll put it between S and A. Yeah, the only thing that's like stopping me from putting it in S is basically usually, you only attack like twice with your normal attack, and sometimes you don't even want to just use a normal attack. You want to use, I don't know, your burst is coming up, your elemental skill is coming up. So yeah, that's the only thing holding me back. But in general, for 1 elemental dice, that's really not bad. Next one is Tandoori Roast Chicken. And your next elemental skill will do 2 additional damage. This is 2 elemental dice, just random elemental dice, not of a specific element, not of the same element. Next one is the butter crab, and all your characters will take 2 less damage the next time they get attacked, like during this round. But I personally think in TCG, damage is better than, like, offensive is better than defensive. I don't know, like, B sounds kind of bad, but it's not good, it's not bad. But I wouldn't commit a slot in my deck for it, if you know what I mean. You also have to consider that basically you will just take 2 less damage on 1 character, because how often does it happen that you do your rotation and 2 different characters take damage in a round? Like, that happens so rarely to me. Next one is Wine and Freedom. So this is like a new category of cards, I would say, which is really interesting. So we have like the 4 different cards for all the 4 regions, and this one is the one for Mondstadt. And basically these cards you can only put in your deck when you have 2 characters from that region, so 2 characters from Mondstadt. For this one from Mondstadt has the effect that when you defeat a character, you just can act once more for 1 elemental dice. Like, I don't know, I feel like it doesn't have a big influence on my decks or on a lot of decks in general. Then I think what is more useful is like the 0 cost cards where switching a character is a fast action, things like that. See, honestly, I'm just gonna put it C. I don't think it's gonna change anything, like your game, whatever. I should probably put this like here. Next one is like the region card from Leeway, and this one costs 3 unaligned elemental dice. This one's quite interesting. So for the 3 dice you spend any random dice, the next round you get 3 omni dice, what they're called, like the joker dice. So basically, if you have, like, if you're in a round and you don't really know what to play, you have like shit elements, you can't really do anything with them, you can just play this card and get them back in the next round to then have like a big next round. It's actually really good. Next one is the Inazuma region card. What this does is all of your elemental dice will become the element of your active character, which is so strong, and it doesn't cost anything. How crazy is that? And the next one is, of course, the Sumeru region card. This just costs 1 unaligned dice, also pretty cheap, and you draw 1 card, and then you can choose how many and what cards in your hand you want to switch, which I find quite good actually. Like, quite cheap, and oftentimes you have like 1 dice left over, so you might as well. If you just have, like, honestly, like, this is worth putting in your deck in my opinion. Like compared to the other 2 things I put in S, not as strong, but still, like, that's a solid cheap card for you. And you also draw an additional card. Like, drawing cards, never bad. The last new region card is the Fatui region, which I find pretty cool that we can play Fatui in TCG and build Fatui decks. So this is pretty cool that they get a card as well. And this card's description is a little bit weird. So it says it creates a random Fatui ambusher for 2 random elemental dice of the same element. So when I tried it out, basically created a damage debuff on the enemy, and in my case it was a pyro damage. So when the enemy used a skill, it did 1 pyro damage, and this could be triggered twice. So overall, I think it does 2 damage of a random element, that's like the random part of it, and applies the element. So as we know, it's really good to apply elements, as elemental reactions do a shit ton of damage in this game. So 2 damage plus, you need to consider that it applies an element, and it only costs 2. I think this is actually pretty strong. Yeah. I'm sorry for Mondstadt region card when I look at this, but it's just not that useful, honestly. Maybe in the new game mode it is useful. Like, I will give it that. For the new game mode, I will make a new tier list. The next card is the Absorbing Prism. This one is specifically tied to the Electrohypostasis character card, and it costs 3 Electro dice and heals the Electrohypostasis if it's currently your active card, and also reapplies the passive. And the passive of Electrohypostasis is pretty strong, so when you would have died, you instead heal up to 1 HP. So reapplying this, that you cannot die, and healing 3, that is pretty strong. The only thing, obviously, like, this is so situational in the sense, like, I will put it in A because of the situationalness. It's only if you currently have the hypostasis active, and it's relatively expensive with 3 electro dice. I just remember I had a card left over that I didn't talk about, and this is the Heavy Strike card that costs 1 unaligned element. So if you play this card, your normal attack will deal 1 additional damage, and your charge attack will deal 2 additional damage. And I don't know about you, but I didn't know what a charge attack was. I don't even know, maybe they added it in this update. So I looked that up, and a charge attack is when the beginning of your phase, you have an even number of dice. Your normal attack is considered a charged attack. So before you play any cards, any actions, not at the complete start of the round, I mean when it's your turn again, and you have an even number of dice. So basically you just need to look at your elemental dice to check if they're even, and then you play this card and deal 2 extra damage. I don't think it's very hard to just wait until you have an even amount, because usually all the actions cost 3 dice, so 3 will always change your amount of dice to odd, even, you know what I mean? So yeah, I think you will basically always get 2 amounts of damage out of this card. I hope I explained it well. I don't know, I'm kind of rushing through this. So basically this is 2 additional damage for 1 unaligned element. I'd personally consider that S tier, because we talked about other cards doing 2 additional damage, like the Fatui one and here the chicken thing, the roast. So that were all the new event cards, and basically, as you can see, all the regional cards are really good if you have, except for Mondstadt. But if you have a deck just with 2 people of that region, definitely put them in. Super cheap, really good effects. And then the fried egg is just OP, good in every single deck. And then some of the other food ones, if you just have slots left over, you could put them in. That's really not that bad. And then some of them are a little bit situational to you, what your personal needs are. Like, for example, this one, if you find yourself often in the situation where you would like to have 1 more elemental dice, this is really good for you. You know, then, like, I feel like the other ones are a little bit more situational, where you need to see what you usually struggle with. So I personally struggle with this, so this would be a good card for me, but might not be a good card for you. And I would say then the other outlier is this one, where you just, yeah, a little bit more damage is never bad. Yeah, I would say that is my overview for all the event cards.